นะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะ Introduction 1. Getting acquainted. Today, we begin a new class on Abhidhamma. Ever since I came to this country, I have been teaching Abhidhamma. I have taught about 3 or 4 courses and then I stopped teaching. So, I thought it was time to teach again. So we have this class now. 2 divisions of Buddhism. Today's talk is just an introduction. I call it getting acquainted. For example, to get acquainted with the Abhidhamma. What Abhidhamma is, what is found in Abhidhamma, and so on. Before we understand what Abhidhamma is, we should understand the 2 major divisions of Buddhism nowadays in the world. The first one is called Theravada Buddhism or Southern Buddhism. The second is called Mahayana Buddhism or Northern Buddhism. There was one Buddhism originally, but later there was difference of opinion among the elders. Different schools of Buddhism appeared in the course of time. Nowadays, there are 2 major divisions of Buddhism. Theravada Buddhism is believed to be the closest to the original teachings of the Buddha. As a Theravada Buddhist, I believe the original teachings of the Buddha are recorded in the scriptures of Theravada Buddhism. Theravada Buddhism spread to the southern part of Asia or to the southern countries. Therefore, it is sometimes called Southern Buddhism. It may not be 100% accurate, but people call it Southern Buddhism. Theravada Buddhism spread to Sri Lanka, Burma, Thailand, Cambodia, and also to Vietnam. Mahayana Buddhism is the latter form of Buddhism. It is different from Theravada Buddhism in many ways. This kind of Buddhism spread to northern countries. When I say north, I mean from the middle of India. It spread to northern countries like Nepal, Tibet, Mongolia, China, Vietnam, Korea, and ultimately Japan, since these are northern countries. It is sometimes called Northern Buddhism. Sometimes Theravada Buddhism is called Pali Buddhism, and Mahayana Buddhism is called Sanskrit Buddhism because they adapted Pali and Sanskrit languages as their script languages, respectively. In both Theravada and Mahayana, there is Abhidhamma. The Abhidhamma you will be studying with me is Theravada Buddhism. I belong to Theravada. I am a Theravada Buddhist monk. I know Theravada Abhidhamma, but I am not so familiar with Abhidhamma in other schools. Therefore, Abhidhamma you are going to study with me is that taught in Theravada Buddhism. How Buddha's teachings were recorded and handed down. The first Buddhist council. First, we should know how Buddha's teachings were recorded and handed down to this day. Buddha did not write anything down. He just taught by word of mouth. His immediately disciples learned his teaching by heart, 3 months. 3 months later, the death of the Buddha. The surviving disciples of the Buddhas, headed by the Venerable Mahakasyapa, held a council, a Buddhist council. At that council, all the teachings of the Buddha were collected and presented to the councils. The council consists of 500 arahants, monks who were the immediate disciples of the Buddha. All the teachings of the Buddha were presented and scrutinized carefully. Only when they were satisfied that a particular teaching was the authentic teaching of the Buddha was that teachings accepted. As a sign of acceptance, the elders recited that teaching, a sutta, for example, together. That is why the councils are known in Pali as Sankayana or Sankiti. Sankayana or Sankiti means reciting together in this way. Suttas and other teachings were accepted as a sign of acceptance. The Arahants recited the teachings together. Thus, at the first Buddhist councils, the teachings of the Buddha, still fresh in the memories of his disciples, were collected, presented, scrutinized, and then accepted as authentic. That was done in Rajagaha, India. The Second Buddhist Council. The Second Buddhist Council was held 100 years after the death of the Buddha. Just before that council, there were some elders who had difference of opinion with regard to some vinaya or disciplinary rules. They could not come to an agreement with other monks, so the Sangha was divided at that time. The other group was called Mahasangika. The original sung in order to preserve the original teachings of the Buddha housed the Second Buddhist Council. It was housed in Vaisali in India. That council reaffirmed the teachings that were collected and accepted at the First Buddhist Council. Actually, no new teachings was added and nothing was taken away from the teachings recorded at the First Buddhist Council. The Third Buddhist Council. From that time on, different schools of Buddhism appeared about 200 years after the death of the Buddha. There were as many as 18 or even more schools of Buddhism. At that time, there were disagreements about not only the disciplinary rule, but other teachings as well. At the Third Buddhist Council, which was held 234 years after the death of the Buddha by our reckoning, all these different opinions were examined. According to Theravada tradition, they were found to be false. So, the Third Council was held at that time. At that council's one book was definitely added. That book, as we have it now, is the Kathavatu. That council was held during the time of King Asoka. You may have heard of King Asoka. He was a very famous king. He is sometimes called Emperor Asoka because he ruled over almost the whole of India. He was an exemplary king. He gave up war while he was conquering. He could have easily annexed the southern tip of India to his kingdom if he wanted to. But he gave up war and followed the path of Dhamma. It was during his time that the Third Buddhist Council was held. At that council also, the teachings handed down from the First and the Second Buddhist Councils were reaffirmed and just a little bit of addition was made. The Fourth Buddhist Council. Then from that time on until 450 years after the death of the Buddha, the teachings were handed down from teachers to pupil. From generation to generation, by word of mouth, it was an oral tradition until that time. At that time, it was in Sri Lanka. The what is called the Fourth Buddhist Council was held. During that time, there was a great rebellion. It was so great that people had to leave their place and go elsewhere. For shelter, the monks found it difficult to survive during that rebellion. Some monks went to southern India. Many monks remained in Sri Lanka. although it was difficult for them to live, for example, to stay alive, they nevertheless protected the teachings of the Buddha in their memory. After the rebirths, the monks who went to India came back to Sri Lanka. The monks who remained in Sri Lanka said that since they had gone through difficult times, their memories might have failed, and they might have made some mistakes in the teachings. So they compared the teachings, those teachings of the monks who had remained in Sri Lanka, with those teachings of the monks who had gone to India and returned to Sri Lanka. When they compared the teachings, it is said there was no difference or discrepancy. After that, the monks decided that in the future it would be very difficult for monks to retain all the teachings of the Buddha in their memory. So they decided to write down the teachings on palm leaf. It was about 450 years after the death of the Buddha in Alukvihara that the Tipitaka was written down on palm leaf for the first time in Buddhist history. Although it was not called the Four Buddhist Councils, obviously later generations took it to be the Four Buddhist Councils. We also take it to be the Four Buddhist Councils. The Fifth Buddhist Council. Then the Fifth Buddhist Council was housed in Mandalay, Burma, in my native city. It was during the time of King Mandan. He was a very pious king. He wanted to do something which was not done by any king before him. He wanted to make the teachings of the Buddha last up till the end of the world. So he decided to have the Tipitaka written down on marble slabs. There were 729 marble slabs on which all of the Tipitaka was written down. Those marble slabs were described by a Burmese author as the biggest book in the world. Its pages are 5 inches thick, about 5 or 5.5 feet high, and about 3.5 feet across. The Tipitaka was written down on these 729 marble slabs. A slab was put in a brick house. They were situated in a pagoda near Mandalay Hill. It was very lucky that none of these houses were hit by any bomb or any shell. During the Second World War, there was fighting around that place, where we can still see these marble slabs intact in Mandalay. If you visit Burma and go to Mandalay, it is a must that you go to see this marble slab. The council was held to coincide roughly with 2,400 years after the death of the Buddha, and 2,400 monks participated in that council. That council was held in 1871 AD. The Sixth Buddhist Council. After that king, there was another king. He was captured by the British, and Burma became a British colony. After the Second World War, Burma gained independence in 1948. After independence, both the Sangha and the political leaders of the country decided to call for another Buddhist council. They said the Sixth Buddhist Council would be the most comprehensive because it would include all Theravada countries, representatives from Mahayana countries also were invited to the Buddhist Council. I was involved in the proceedings of that six Buddhist councils, but I was too young to be mentioned by name in the records. The Sixth Buddhist Council was held in Roeun, Burma, in order to imitate the Buddhist and the First Buddhist Council, which was held in a big cave. The government of Burma built a man-made cave which could host 2,500 monks. At that place in Roeun in 1954, the Sixth Buddhist Council was held. One outcome of that Buddhist Council was a well-edited and well-printed edition of the Tipitaka and its commentaries and sub-commentaries. Nowadays, that edition is believed to be the best edition of the Pali texts, commentaries, and sub-commentaries. I will be using those books throughout this class. I will be referring to those books. The teachings of the Buddha were handed down from generation to generation. At some intervals, the councils were held. The latter councils was actually the reconfirmation of what the first Buddhist councils had accepted and recorded. In this way, the teachings of the Buddha have come down to us, the present generation. Nowadays, it has reached the United States of America. Division of Buddha's teachings into Nikaya. When the Buddha's teachings were recorded at the first Buddhist Council, The elders of that councils divided the Buddhist teachings into different categories. There are several divisions or several categories. I want to tell you about two divisions only. One division is into Nikayas, 5 Nikayas or collections. All the teachings of the Buddha were divided into 5 groups or 5 collections. The first collection is of long discourses. The second is of medium length discourses. The third is of the kindred discourses or miscellaneous discourses. The fourth is gradual discourses. And finally, the fifth is minor discourses. All the Buddha's teachings were divided into these 5 Nikayas. Collection of long discourses, collection of medium length discourses, collection of miscellaneous discourses, collection of gradual discourses, collection of minor discourses, or collection of smaller discourses. In Pali, they are called Digha Nikaya, long discourses, Majjhima Nikaya, middle length discourses, Samyutta Nikaya, kindred discourses, Anguttara Nikaya, gradual discourses, and Khuddaka Nikaya, minor discourses. Into Pitaka's. Again, the Buddha's teachings were divided into 3 groups. They are called Tipitaka. The word Pitaka means a receptacle, a vessel or a basket. Or Pitaka means thing to be learned. The word Pitaka is usually translated as basket. There are 3 Pitaka or baskets. They are 1. Vinaya Pitaka, 2. Sutta or Suttanta Pitaka, and 3. Abhidhamma Pitaka. Nikayas and Pitakas are separate or different sorts of divisions. Many people may understand this. They think Nikaya division is a subdivision of Pitaka. But that is not so. Actually, each Buddhist book and the Pali Canon belongs both to a particular Pitaka and a particular Nikaya. Let's look at the first book among the texts, the Mahavibhanga. It belongs to Khuddaka Nikaya, and as to Pitaka, it belongs to Vinaya Pitaka. Nitipakarana Pitakopadesa and Milindapanya. These 3 are not mentioned in the Vinaya and Digha Nikaya commentaries as part of the canon. That is why some people don't include them in the Pali Canon, but in Burma, these are also included in the Pali Canon when they were rehearsed at the 5th and the 6 Buddhist councils. They were included with regard to the Gathavatu, this book as we have it today, was added at the 3rd Buddhist councils. You may read the expositor for the account in details. There is a Pali verse found in the Vinaya commentary and the Abhidhamma commentary. It reads, Thapetva Chaturo Pete Nikaye Dika Adike Tatanang Buddhavacanang Nikayo Kodago Matu. The meaning is as follows. The rise of the words of the Buddha, excluding these 4 Nikayas, such as Digha, that means Digha, Majjhima, Sangyutta, and Anguttara, should be understood as Khodaka Nikaya. It is strange that the wholes of Vinaya Pitaka and the wholes of Abhidhamma Pitaka belong to the Khodaka Nikaya. Khodaka Nikaya means minor teachings or minor discourses. Abhidhamma is not minor, and Vinaya is not minor either. But both of them are included in Khodaka Nikaya. The division into Nikaya and the division into Pitakas are 2 different divisions. Nikayas are not subdivisions of the Pitaka. The Abhidhamma we are going to study belongs as to Nikaya to Khodaka Nikaya, and as to Pitaka to Abhidhamma Pitaka. The word Abhidhamma. Now, we come to the word Abhidhamma itself. This word is composed of 2 parts, Abhi and Dhamma. Abhi here means excelling or distinguish. Dhamma means teaching. Abhidhamma means excelling teaching or distinguished teaching. Excelling does not mean that the teachings in Abhidhamma Pitaka are better than, loftier than, or nobler than those taught in the Sutta Pitaka. The only difference between those taught in Sutta Pitaka and Abhidhamma Pitaka is the method of treatment, the method of presentation. The same things are taught in Sutta and Abhidhamma. You find the same Dhamma, the same subjects in both Sutta Pitaka and Abhidhamma Pitaka. But in Abhidhamma Pitaka, they are minutely analyzed. It excels the teachings in Sutta Pitaka. It is distinguished from the teachings in Sutta Pitaka with regard to the method of treatment. Let us take, for example, the 5 aggregates. I hope you are familiar with the 5 Aggregates. Aggregate of matter. Aggregate of feeling. Aggregate of perception. Aggregate of mental formations. Aggregate of consciousness. Buddha taught the doctrine of 5 aggregates. We are composed of those 5 aggregates. Most beings are composed by 5 aggregates. These 5 aggregates are treated in the Samyutta Nikaya on 1 page only. But the same 5 aggregates are treated in the second book of Abhidhamma in 68 pages. We have 68 pages versus 1 page. You see how different the method of treatment is in Suttanta Pitaka and Abhidhamma Pitaka. In the Suttanta Pitaka, the Buddha may elaborate on the 5 aggregates a little more, but it is most complete analysis, a complete treatment as in the Abhidhamma. In the Abhidhamma Pitaka, especially in the Vibhanga, they are treated by way of explanation of Suttanta method, by way of explanation of Abhidhamma method, and by way of questions and answers. Actually, everything to be known about the 5 aggregates is treated in Abhidhamma, not in Suttanta Pitaka. So this is why it is called Abhidhamma. It differs only in the method of treatment, not in the content, not in the dhammas taught in it. You find the same 5 aggregates in suttas and Abhidhamma. You find the 4 noble truths in sutta and Abhidhamma, and so on. What is taught in Abhidhamma? What is taught in Abhidhamma? It is very hard to translate this word into English actually. We will say that it is ultimate teaching in contrast to conventional teaching. In Sutta Pitaka, the Buddha used conventional terms like I, you, a person, a woman. Without these conventional terms, we cannot speak at all. We cannot communicate with other people at all because we live in this conventional world. So in the Sutta Pitaka, Buddha taught in conventional terms, but in Abhidhamma Pitaka, most of the terms used are not conventional terms, but terms of ultimate reality. They are different. There are almost no persons, no man, no woman in the Abhidhamma Pitaka. You will find 5 aggregates, base elements, vulnerable to it, and so on. Although the subject may be the same, the way of presentation is different. Let us take the examples of water. Actually, I don't have the knowledge of chemistry. I only know that water is ozone. So I always take that examples. When I say I drink water, I am using a conventional term. It is the truth that What I am drinking is water. I am not lying. But if you go to a lab and analyze the elements, you will not call that liquid water, but ocean. The terms we use in Abhidhamma are like the usage of the terms ocean in chemistry. You are not a man. You are not a woman. You are 5 aggregates. The 5 aggregates are sitting right now. A group of 5 aggregates is talking. About 5 aggregates are listening. That is something like Abhidhamma. In Abhidhamma, the terms used are the ultimate realities and not of convention. These realities are taught in many different ways. The realities, those that are accepted as realities, are 4 in number. We will come to that later. In Abhidhamma, mind and matter are minutely analyzed. A person is composed of minds and matter. Mind is again composed of citta, which is translated as consciousness, and citta, which is translated as mental factor. What we call mind is a group of 2 things, citta or cettasika. There are 89 or 121 types of citta. Citta is divided into 89 or 121 types. Self-consciousness. Mental factors are divided into 52. Mind is minutely analyzed and described in Abhidhamma. Matter is also treated in detail. There are 28 material properties taught in Abhidhamma. The numbers or enumeration, their causes, and how they are grouped together in groups, how they arise, how they disappear in one's given life. All these things are taught in Abhidhamma. In Abhidhamma, what are ultimate realities is taught. That is consciousness, mental factor, matter, and Nibbana. What is Abhidhamma? What is Abhidhamma? Is it philosophy? Is it psychology? Is it ethics? Nobody knows. Sayadaw Uditala is a Burmese monk who spent many years in the West. He is still living in Burma. He may be about 97 years old now. He said, "It is a philosophy. In as much as it deals with the most general causes and principles that govern all things, so it can be called a philosophy. You find it in the causes and principles that govern all things. It is an ethical system because its enables one to realize the ultimate goal, Nibbana. There are no ethical teachings in Abhidhamma actually. There are no teachings like you are not to do this or that. You are to refrain from this. There are no such teachings in Abhidhamma, but when it describes consciousness, it begins with what is unwholesome. It goes to consciousness of sensuous sphere. Then it goes to higher states of consciousness called fine material sphere consciousness, and then again it goes to immaterial sphere. Types of consciousness, and ultimately it goes to supramantran consciousness. It goes from one spiritual state of another, so it can be called ethics. As it Abhidhamma deals with the working of the mind with thought process. Okay, so with thought process and mental factors, it can be called a system of psychology. It is really a system of psychology because it deals with mind, matter, consciousness, mental factors, and mental materials properties. Therefore, Abhidhamma is generally translated as psychoethical philosophies of Buddhism. I want to call it just Abhidhamma. I think that is better. When we say it is Buddhist psychology, it is psychology, but it is more than that. We may call it philosophy. Again, it is more than that. We may call it ethics. It is ethics, but it is more than that. So, we will never do justice to translate it as psychology, philosophy, or ethics. It is better to just call it Abhidhamma as we Burmese do. I always tell people we Burmese are smart people. We do not translate these terms into Burmese. We just Burmanize them. So let's just call it Abhidhamma. In Abhidhamma you find something of philosophy, much of psychology, and also of ethics. Thank you.